especially if the injury is catastrophic. Over the past couple of years, the accident benefits has been seriously reduced, so the driver may not be able to claim the entire injury on their own automobile policy. The driver of the ATV will more likely be carrying a minimum liability limit on their personal automobile policy as well. If the driver of the ATV is negligent and they carry insufficient insurance and the township is found to be as little as 1% liable or at fault, the courts will look at the township to make the injured parties whole. So before passing a bylaw, it's recommended that consideration be given to the following. Does your township have staff to manage the increased maintenance or inspection responsibilities? In the event of a loss, the plaintiff's lawyer is going to look at the township's maintenance and inspection records to see what standards are being met at the time of the accident. How safe is the roadway that's being contemplated for use? Is it flat with curves? Does it have clear sight lines? What is the distance the ATVs will be allowed to travel on that roadway? What is the type of road? Is it paved or is it gravel? And also, how busy is the roadway? Will the shoulders need to be widened? And based on the type of road, which minimum maintenance standards will apply? Is additional signage required? For example, you might want to have a sign that reduces the speed limit for the section of the road where ATVs will be using it. Another warning sign might be advising motorists that they'll be sharing the road with ATVs.
So those are the doom and gloom, insurer risk management perspective. What we're looking at here is we understand that trails and shared trails are an important part of a municipal offering to their constituents. A lot of municipalities do it. Our job is just to create awareness and show what the municipality could be exposed to. And then how do we contain that risk? How do we manage that risk? How do we put the best foot forward that if the municipality decides they are going to have shared access trails, how do we make sure that the municipality is in the best possible position to ensure that the community is safe, that when they are using the trails, that whether it's an ATV or someone who's walking their dog or on their bike, that they're safe, that they feel that they're able to go out and enjoy their community and not be at an undue risk of harm. And then two is to protect the municipality, and should something happen, that the municipality has done its due diligence and protected itself adequately should a claim arise, should what none of us want to happen, but should a incident arise where an individual is hurt. So when we're looking at exploring different operations, whether it's offering another playground, whether it's a day camp, whether it's a shared trail, we just want to look at all the risks that are involved. We want to make sure that we've identified them and see if A, we can eliminate them, B, can we contain them or mitigate them, and then C, if the risk can't be eliminated or mitigated, that there's a safety net there for the municipality should a claim arise. So when we're looking at the ATV and shared trails, obviously that's a bit of a higher risk. We have a motor vehicle versus individuals who are walking. And so we just want to make sure that when those trails are constructed, that A, they're constructed safely and properly, and that B, the maintenance and inspection is continued so that if anything happens to the trail, as things do, storms happen, as we're seeing in the south, vandalism can happen, local, teenagers decide that it's fun to set X, Y, and Z trap. We just want to make sure that regular inspections are happening so that we can eliminate any hazards that are artificially put on the trail. That's what we talk about when we talk about ATVs. The presentation goes on to other trails, etc. Happy to discuss those. I believe ATVs are sort of the hot topic at the moment. We open it to the council if anyone has any questions through there.
Just for your understanding, we just had a request to look at it. We haven't made any decision. We've been in a conversation about it, really.
Okay.
So we are going to get a staff report next council meeting next week, and then we'll look at it from there to what avenue we're going to go.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we are at this point.
Okay.
But we've had a lot of emails, a lot of correspondence, even phone calls. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So, and both ways.
Yep.
But
And really, at the end of the day, is to, if the municipality decides to move forward, as I said, it's just to ensure that we have the right plan in place, that we have the right policies and procedures to protect the constituents, the individuals who are using the trails, and then the municipality itself should a claim arise.
Sure. Thank you. Questions? Anyone with any questions? Pat, yes?
Hi there. I really appreciated your presentation. You said that you also have information about other trail uses and things. I was actually wondering if I could ask you another one that popped into my head as I'm watching this. So the thing with the ATVs is we have to pass a bylaw to allow them. We have cyclists on our road regularly that we don't have every right to use the road. One of the things that we have talked about is whether or not right now the only cycling trails we have are county-owned, county roads. Whether we should be expanding as many of our neighbors have done. So I've got maybe 2 or 3 questions, but I'll try and wrap them up, and they might be covered in your presentation. One is this, like you were talking about, ATVs could be fairly high risk. Is cycling considered a high risk? I'm going to ask a whole bunch, and then you can answer them.
Absolutely.
Is cycling considered a high risk activity these days? Because, like I said, we see a lot of it out here. I am assuming that in terms of looking after the shoulders and such, you're going to tell me very similar things, that maintenance and inspection are important. But the other thing that I was wondering sort of with that is that if we have a limited number of roads that we say are being maintained and inspected, does that mitigate circumstance if somebody goes in, has an accident on a not designated road?
So the first question about the bicycles, the cycles, is that I think, 15, 20 years ago, we would consider those types of shared paths with cyclists as high risk. We don't consider those as high risk as an ATV. Motorized vehicles obviously can get up to higher speeds, are much more substantial if they collided with a cyclist on a bicycle or a pedestrian. So biking is not considered high risk like an ATV is. From your perspective and just to clarify the question, and might have to get you to repeat it, in regards to the maintenance of the shoulders, etc., are you asking what the liability is? Should someone have an accident on a road that isn't necessary?
I know that, I'm not sure who it is that put it out, but I know that there are different types of shoulders you can have that offer different degrees of
support and stability.
And that for cyclists that in some of our neighboring communities, the trails are marked that this is like a paved shoulder, a gravel shoulder, no shoulder,
right,
etc. So that there's an awareness, and they're also marked with, this is a designated trail or whatever. So assuming that we were meeting whatever shoulder level we set as the standard that we set, as long as we're meeting those standards, does that mitigate our liability if somebody has an accident on whether those roads or another road that we have not designated?
So definitely, it's always hard to quantify mitigating liability. So there's sort of 2 parts to my answer. One is when a municipality, there is a claim or there could be liability imposed on a municipality, what we need to do is to ensure that we've sort of ticked certain boxes. So one is that the municipality has carefully reviewed the shoulders and understanding that there are individuals using it, bikes, ATVs, etc., following standards, making sure that proper signage is up there. Then we have our inspection reports, and those have to be documented. So the 2 of those go hand in hand, signs and policies and procedures, maintenance and inspection reports that are documented. When we go to trial, when we're in court, it's documentation, documentation, documentation. A judge will say if there's no documentation, it never happened. So signage is documentation. We see it. Is it reasonable? Someone could read it, understand it. They're well aware of what's going on. 2, then inspection reports are incredibly important, maintenance logs, and actually how you maintained and built the shoulders are important. So those 2 things go together really for liability. We can never guarantee we're mitigating liability, but we can do our best to show the municipality has done their due diligence from inception all the way through to maintenance. That's the best we can do when we're mitigating liability. And know that the second part of that answer is, as we work towards mitigating liability, your insurance policy is there to ensure that there's protection as we go through to determine, how much liability the municipality owes to the claimant.
Ask one more question. So if we have none of our roads designated as cycling paths and an accident were to occur, that same documentation would be necessary?
It would depend on the claim, and I know these are incredibly frustrating answers. And it really depends on the facts of that claim and that incident. If they weren't a designated cycling path or area, if you're not promoting it that way, we would have, that would be part of the defense for the municipality, saying that this was not part of our trails. No one can prevent a lawsuit or a claim.
Absolutely.
And it would have to be the circumstances of that loss to see what kind of defense could be put forward for the municipality. So you would have a good leg to stand on with, we did not promote it as a cycling trail as such. We didn't maintain it as a cycling trail. This was not the purpose of that area. The municipality was not a sanctioned trail for the municipality.
So a trail that is sanctioned and is being kept up to proper inspection sort of says there's A and there's B, which I know won't necessarily win this lawsuit, but gives you something that you can use as an argument.
Correct.
Okay. So here's a question I don't want to ask, but I will ask it anyway. If we do nothing and just don't have any trails marked anywhere, other than, like I said, the county, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the county's problem, does that better or worsen a lawsuit? Like if we say, you know what, we understand that cycling is going to happen, here's where we can help, here's where it's not so good. Like we have forced roads with no shoulders. I'm not really high on cycling there. Does it help us to say this but not that, or are we better just like, we'll just pretend it's not happening?
So ignorance is never a defense anymore. When cases go to trial, in the sense of that sticking our head in the sand and putting our hands over our eyes isn't a great defense. I think it is a good idea for a municipality to openly see what's happening in their area and deciding, which way we're going to go. As we say, those bylaws will help you, and setting up those policies and procedures that these are sanctioned trails and keeping the upkeep, et cetera, et cetera. It's better to address the problem head on from a risk management perspective. Having said that, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not. Unfortunately, I wish I was the judge sitting in a lot of the cases. It really is on a case by case basis, the facts of each case. And as I say, I know this is an incredibly frustrating, hair tearing out answer. But all we can do is, when a municipality decides to move forward, what's the best course of action? How do we help you put the right policies and procedures in place and give you the best defense?
Okay. I'm going to push my luck with back to ATVs.
One very quick, because I got Bill, and then we got to...
Am I right in thinking, like you said, increased speeds and things that, like, as ATV tends to be more high risk, that you are more likely to be seeing claims, even though there may not be as many ATVers as cyclists, you're more likely to see an ATV claim?
On trails, it really depends on the area, how much the trail is used by ATVs. We do see some claims from ATVs on trails. As an overall percentage of municipal claims that we see, we would probably see them in our top 8 exposures, but it's not something at the top of the list.
What's number 1?
Roads liability in the winter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bill?
Thank you. Thanks for being with us today. I'd just like to expand on the idea of the bicycles. When groups or clubs organize tours and rallies and a fundraiser like we had last week, do they carry their own liability insurance, or does that fall to us? Because I know they came out on Ontario Street and across Danforth Road West, and there are no shoulders at all on that road. And we're talking about in excess of 100 bikes going up there. So do they carry their own liability insurance?
They absolutely should carry their own liability insurance.
If they don't?
If they don't, at the end of the day, your insurance policy will protect the municipality should something happen either due to your activities or land that you own or responsible for, which are the roads. From a risk management perspective, whenever groups are organizing a formal activity, whether it's in your arena or on your roads, you should be getting them to have a permit, and then insurance would be a requirement.
Right.
Those groups can access insurance. They can get special event insurance, and then depending on if they have an overall provincial organization that they belong to, they can secure insurance through that. It's one of the big risk management topics we speak with a lot of our municipalities. So we created an insurance program called LCIS. It's the Local Community Insurance Services. We knew that when we were doing the right thing by our municipality, by requiring permits and insurance from local community groups, that we needed to offer an affordable alternative for them so that it wasn't overly onerous on them and draining their funds. So any of those groups can purchase it through their own means or through JLT.
Thank you. Can we follow up with staff to see if we are getting permits from these people, or licenses, or requests, or if they're even telling us that they're riding our roads?
Sure, a lot of them do carry it, though, but we can
That's
definitely
good.
follow up.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Thank you.
Gary?
Yeah, I just wonder if I could go address it to either Andrea or yourself. On page 2 of Andrea's statement, there was it had, I can't remember the exact word, but 1% of the liability cost. Could you just expand upon that for the benefit of people?
Absolutely. So in Canada, in the common law provinces, so minus Quebec, but particularly in Ontario, it's quite an active judicial rule. It's called joint and several liability. Lawyers invoke this because they want to have the best opportunity to make their client whole, so the plaintiff, the claimant. And what that means is if an individual or corporation is found 1% liable, they can be on the hook for 100% of the judgment. They call it the deep pockets impact. And municipalities tend to be affected by this greatly, more so than most private organizations. That is because most people, when they're carrying auto insurance or personal insurance, they carry much lower limits than a municipality. What if the operation is excluded under that policy? What if they don't have enough limits to make the victim whole? And so that way, when they name municipalities, they understand that they have access to a higher limit of insurance, and that if the other guilty party is insufficiently insured or has insufficient funds, that they'll know they'll get a higher payout from a municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything further? Because we've got kind of caught with time. Scott, do you have any question? Go ahead.
No, I'm trying.
No? Okay. Well, thank you for coming in and giving us that information. It would be nice maybe to have you back for a longer period of time, not
Absolutely.
just ATV, but we had some other issue we'd love to chat with you on, such as volunteerism, and there's a lot of other liability issues that I'm sure we could come up with as a council that we'd love to get answers for. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
The further part of this presentation does touch on volunteers, et cetera, and we'd be happy to come back and discuss anything you'd like.
Sure, we'd have to maybe go with an hour presentation rather
Absolutely.
than 15 minutes. So, yeah, maybe we'll try and schedule that and have it in the fall, winter
That's
time.
great.
Great, thank you.
Thanks very much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, next up we have Faye McFarland. Faye, oh, there she is. And this is in response to our Northumberland ATV Riders Association and their presentation at our last committee of the whole. So welcome, Faye.
Thank you. We ask Council to dismiss the application of the Northumberland and District ATV Riders Club, seeking a bylaw to allow ATVs on all Hamilton Township roads. If Council is considering allowing such a bylaw in any form, we request an open public meeting to ascertain the position of all of the residents of Hamilton Township on this important safety issue, which potentially affects all residents of Hamilton Township. All ATVs carry a warning label on them and a notice in the beginning of the owner's manual that they are never to be operated on roads or paved surfaces.
Faye, could you please speak to council, because that's who we are addressing today. So.
Okay, sorry. And I quote the Yamaha owner's manual. This ATV is designed and manufactured for off-road use only. It is illegal and unsafe to operate this ATV on any public street, road, or highway, unquote. And this is from the Polaris Owner's Manual. Quote, avoid paved surfaces, warning, never operate this vehicle on any public street, road, or highway, including dirt and gravel roads. I looked at all the owner's manuals that I could online. They all say virtually the same thing. 2 owner's manuals were not accessible online. One was Kawasaki. I spoke to a representative of Kawasaki Canada. The same kind of warning was on their labels and in their owner's manuals. There are inherent difficulties in operating ATVs on road surfaces. According to their manufacturers, ATVs are not equipped with road tires. They have low-pressure tires not designed for paved surfaces. Their high center of gravity, narrow track width, and short wheelbase make them unstable and dangerous to operate, and they are very prone to rolling over. I have attached with my paper a number of reports, and I'm just going to highlight a few of the comments on some of these reports. The first one is the Ontario Medical Association position paper on ATVs and children's safety. Of particular, and I quote, of particular concern to physicians are ATV accidents involving younger patients. It is this adverse and disproportionate health impact being felt by children that is the focus of this paper. Findings: there are inherent risks associated with the operation of ATVs. Children, however, are particularly vulnerable to risks associated with ATV use. Statistics from Canadian studies demonstrate the clear threat ATVs pose to the health and safety of children. A 2006 Journal of Pediatric Surgery study found that nearly half of all TV-related injuries and over 35% of all ATV-related deaths are suffered by children 16 years of age and younger. The Ontario Injury Prevention Centre 2005-2006 year found 5,584 emergency room visits in Ontario associated with ATV use, and that young males ages 15 to 19 had the highest rate of visits of any age group in that figure. Common injuries suffered by children include but are not limited to extremity fractures, head injuries, facial trauma, contusions, abrasions, and lacerations. Many of these injuries are suffered not only by drivers but by passengers, despite industry warnings that carrying passengers destabilizes ATVs and increases risk of injury and death. Conclusions and recommendations. It is clear from this report the danger to children and youth from ATV use is real, and the health impact for children from driving or riding ATV remains substantial. In the United States, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, December of 2013, hundreds die in ATV crashes on public roads. Their low-pressure tires aren't designed for paved roads. Rollovers also are a risk. 2007 to 2011, in the United States, 1,700 ATV riders died in crashes on public roads. To date, which was in 2013, 2/3 of the fatal ATV crashes occur on public or private roads. The vast majority of ATV riders killed in crashes on public roads are 16 years or older and male. Few fatally injured riders wear helmets, and many are impaired by alcohol. Between 1986 and 1998, ATV deaths averaged 227 a year. They were increased to 800 a year in 2007. 65% of the deaths for which a location was identified took place on public or private roads. Fatal ATV crashes are more likely than other fatal crashes to involve a single vehicle. 3/4 of the fatal crashes in the study involved just one ATV. Of the single vehicle ATV fatal crashes, 56% involved a rollover. One way to address the danger of ATVs traveling on paved surfaces might be to strengthen the laws that prohibit the vehicles on public roads, since most are paved. The National Safety Council says, do not operate the ATV on streets, highways, or paved roads. These warnings are in the clearest, strongest terms for the safety of not only ATV riders, but their passengers and the public. The omission of this crucial information from the presentation of the Northumberland and District ATV Riders Club is a serious breach of disclosure of the necessary facts council needs to make an informed decision. Council has been deliberately left in the dark about what matters most to council, the safety of the citizens of Hamilton Township. ATVs also put the public at risk. Our roads are used by motor vehicles, farm tractors and equipment, cyclists, equestrians, and pedestrians, often with children and pets. Traffic is increasing as the population of Hamilton Township increases. We have more residential neighborhoods, farms, rural homes, equestrian centers, and high-traffic roads than most townships. ATVs on roads present a serious traffic safety and public health concern. More ATV facilities occur on public roads than off-roads. And I have other reports. These are from, this one in particular is from the U.S. Consumer Protection Safety Commission. More fatal altering vehicle crashes occur on the roadway than off. Increased risk-taking characterizes roadway fatalities. Over 60% of all fatalities resulted from roadway crashes for the period of time 1985 to 2009. After 1998, roadway fatalities increased at over twice the rate of the off-road fatalities with ATV accidents. Roadway crashes were more likely than off-road crashes to involve multiple fatalities, carrying passengers, alcohol use, and collisions and head injuries. Fatal roadway crashes were more likely than off-road crashes to involve risk-taking behaviors, for example, carrying passengers, that could exacerbate the inherent difficulties of operating ATVs on roadway surfaces. Higher crash forces from greater speed and the lower use of protective equipment may also have contributed to highway mortality rates. Eliminating non-essential ATV use may be an effective way to reduce ATV-related fatalities. And this is from the Department of Emergency Medicine, Carver College of Medicine at the University of Iowa in 2013. More than 1 in 3 on-road crashes involved a collision with another vehicle, suggesting that ATVs on the road represent a potential traffic safety concern. Even controlling for helmet use, on-road victims suffer more major trauma and severe brain injuries than those off-road. Overall, our data reinforces the importance of laws restricting ATV road use and the need for effective enforcement, as well as the need to increase user education about ATV road use laws and the danger of riding on the roads. The Halliburton Kawartha Pine Ridge District Health Unit reports 692 ATV off-road vehicle-related emergency visits from 2014 to 2016 in the area covered by that health unit. Of these, Northumberland County had 275 such incidents, and Hamilton Township had 29 such incidents. Of these, 22 incidents in the area covered by the health unit and 7 in Northumberland County were identified as traffic accidents, meaning ATVs that accidents that occurred on public highways or streets. And I have their report, which I also provided for you. The potential for significant personal and public liability for substantial damages and costs exists if ATVs are allowed on roads and collisions occur. Hamilton Township Council and staff should know ATVs are not to be used on roads, and allowing them to do so subjects them to claims and litigation for personal injury or death, damages, and costs. The Northumberland and District ATV Riders Club cannot be expected to control ATV activity. They have no authority to take action, and it is not in their interest to report incidences of wrongdoing. Further, only 1% of ATV owners belong to such clubs. If ATV activity is no longer contained on trails, but is spread over roads, More police enforcement will be necessary and costs could increase. ATVs are not environmentally friendly. They tear up trails, destroy plants and animal habitat, spew engine exhaust containing chemicals that cause cancer, birth defects, and other reproductive harm. And this is according to the Yamaha Owner's Manual. They make excessive noise, potentially affecting all Hamilton Township residents. The Northumberland and District ATV Riders Club claim that economic development is potential in this area is suspect. The minimal impact for a few businesses is more than offset by the many negatives of allowing unfettered use of our roads as they have requested. Hamilton Township residents have had numerous negative experiences with ATV users tearing down fences, tearing up crops, roaring along roadways. Many of those who ride for fun do not limit their speed to 20 kilometers below the posted speed limit, which is they would have to do if they were even allowed on the roads. It appears they do not care if they speed, make noise, or put themselves, their passengers, or the public at risk. The scenario where hundreds of out-of-town ATV riders descend on Hamilton Township for their poker runs is a very real possibility, putting users and local residents at risk and degrading our quality of life. The significant cost to Hamilton Township to allow this, I think we're presented, just in the woman speaking before myself, for construction, maintenance, signage, inspections, and the township would still be at risk. The speaker talked about shared trails, but I would assume that she meant shared roads, because that's what this is really all about. It's not about the trails out in the forest, etc. It's about the roads. No one has presented, and I certainly haven't done any case law, to take a look at the damages awards that have been granted in cases like this. The negatives of ATV road use vastly outweigh any perceived benefit to Hamilton Township residents, because quite frankly, in my opinion, there are no benefits to Hamilton Township residents to have ATVs on our roads. The safety and quality of life of all Hamilton Township residents will be negatively impacted by the danger of ATVs on our roads. A few locals or hundreds of others, the vast majority of whom do not belong to the club seeking permission, want to tear around our roads for their fun. Council must consider the serious safety ramifications and significant liability issues and reject their application.
That's it? Okay, good, thank you. Questions for Faye? Anyone? Any questions? Yeah. Well, thank you for your comments, and we'll definitely consider that when we make our decision next week.
Thanks, Faye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, on a little more less serious note, we get a little bit of fun here today at Hamilton Township. We get to honor our Senior of the Year, and this year it is going to be Mr. Tom Bain Sr., which is going to be quite an honor for us here at the Township to talk about Tom for a bit. I'm going to say that Tom was born on September 25th, 1935, which I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, Tom, or not, but it's out there. And he basically lived at the same family farm on Burnham Street, where he's lived his whole life, so which is a little unusual in today's times, that's for sure. He's fathered 5 children, 4 of whom live in Hamilton Township. Not sure who the oddball is, Tom, but should have kept them all here in the township.
I hope so.
He started his construction company back in 1960 with his wife Alice, and it always takes a good partner to make things work, that's for sure. He's had many land and commercial developments within the township, Coburg and across Northumberland County. He's been involved in many community activities and organizations, both with his business and personal. Been a member of the Chamber of Commerce since 1964. And he's had the Chamber of Commerce Lifetime Achievement Award back in 2006. He's a proud member of the Baltimore Coburg Optimist Club, and that's been for many years. He's been there as a club president, and their club focuses on being a friend of the youth, which is always good, especially in today's times. Tom has been a longtime supporter of youth organized sports, including hockey, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, etc. Many years, Tom has participated in many charitable golf tournaments, helping raise funds for community projects. He's being a cancer survivor. Tom is an active participant in Relay for Life, and he's done that for many years, which we thank you for that, Tom. He's been a generous supporter of many Hamilton Township community projects, including the Beauty Rec Center, and we have the Alice D. Bain Library there, which is wonderful for all the people that use that. And the Baltimore Rec Center, again, one of the largest community centers in our municipality. He's made large donations to support Northumberland Hills Hospital, as well as donations to the YMCA and the Coburg Library. And Tom has never forgotten his roots are farming, and he enjoys the farming community spirit. He's been passionate about farming, and his pet cows have been a long familiar sight to passers-by on Burnham Street, where his farm resides. So Tom, you're the Senior of the Year, and we congratulate you for that. And Tom, would you like to come forward? We'll get council to come up and congratulate you. And we also have Forrest Rowlands here to present on behalf of the Rinaldi's for the MPP. So Forrest, maybe you want to come up first and do that, and then we'll have council come up second.
Again, you've already spoken in regards to Tom here today, and I can go back and remember a lot of that's for sure. Your Worship, Deputy Mayor and Council, it's an honor for me to be back here today, and it's actually a great privilege because it's just a little bit 11 years ago next month, I believe, that I retired from here, and it brings back a lot of memories. Tommy, it was an honor for me to be chosen by the province to come and get you a certificate today, and if you would like to come up for it here, I think that Valerie wants to get your picture before you get too far gone here. Now let me tell you, you have been around, I know, since I was 14 years old. I won't tell you any of the stories that we're involved in. It's nice to see all your family out here today, but I don't think they want to know what we went through, right? Anyways, it was one of those things that we were on the Optimist Club together. We've been a lot of fundraising expeditions together. We played golf and fundraising together. Tommy, when Lou asked me to do this presentation today on behalf of the province, on behalf of him, it was a great honor. Now, this one here is from the Governor General. It says on here that presented a Senior of the Year Award for 2017, Tom Bain Sr., by the municipality of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton in recognition of your outstanding contributions to your community after age 65. Now, you had a lot of contributions before 65, and I don't know whether the mayor has recognized that, but I will say that this would be a lifetime thing. Yeah. And also, Lou Rinaldi said, Dear Tom, as your member of Provincial Parliament, I extend my sincere congratulations to you for being the recipient of Township of Hamilton Senior of the Year Award. It is wonderful you are being recognized for your continuous contribution to your community, your commitment to organize youth sports, farming, as well as other charitable organizations. The events demonstrate your generosity, your leadership and participation in so many facets of Hamilton Township and the surrounding area show your community spirit. It is my hope that you continue to use your talents for the betterment of Northumberland. Please accept this on behalf of your and all the success in your future. Thanks a lot. And that's from Lou Rinaldi, and that's from the Governor General and the Minister. And I believe the mayor's got something for you as well. Probably a big check from all this.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Forrest. Talk about pressure after that speech. Thanks, Forrest. Alice, if you'd like to come forward too, you're welcome to come up. I'm sure it's been a tag team from day one anyway, so.
Tell everybody, I live on the Freshers Corners farm. Original Freshers Corners.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just waiting for.
Hey, well, come on, Council, come on up. We're going to try and bring you around, Tom, so you can get on the internet. Everybody's up there, so we're going to turn you around a little bit. I've got to get your presentation back here.
That reverse? I had that.
I think we're on live now. We're on the internet. Well, I'm going to present you with a certificate. Well, I have the certificate here, but I also have what I feel is said about you today, and a picture of yourself. And that's just about what I read out there today. So we're going to give that to you along with the certificate. And thank you again for all your contributions to the municipality and the area throughout. And we have a little button township button. I see you here on it. And there's some goodies in here, but there's no check. Forrest, you never said that. You only do that in Coburg. We have to look up Tom. You're online now. You're going to get all those millions of hits. And I believe we do have some food talking about. Yes, we do. We do have food for you. I'm going to check with you. The council can join you for about 20 minutes. Okay, Council. I just want to make one last comment. I think it's agreeable that Tom Bain and Alice have made Hamilton Township a lot better place. So I wish I'd have said that with Tom in the room, but it's on the internet now, so I'm sure he'll get it. We do have to adjourn our committee of the whole meeting, so can I have a mover to do that? Bill, you'll move. Sure. Pat, you'll second. All in favor, and it's carried. And we can now